never seem to get closer.
Well, for the lead runners right now, I don't think they're looking at the scenery too much. It's a very tense time because no one has taken an aggressive position and gone out and set a pace. And you know, as the marathon unfolds, it's kind of like a chess game. You have an end game, you have a middle game, and you also have a first move. And you remember when Fisher and Spassky were jostling about, and Fisher would sit there for 1 hour before making the beer and doing all the work and helping you guys run record pace. Because the field is so good this year that there is a possibility in everyone's mind, including Salazar, no matter how confident he is, that if he goes out and just runs record pace, that someone might sit right on his tail and come by him in the last mile. Now, there's not much of a chance of that happening to Salazar in the last mile to make up those 20 seconds.
There's Salazar, excuse me, in the day-glow pants there with the white shirt with the orange stripe on it. Simonson of Norway on the right of your screen. Who else can you pick out?
Well, Malcolm East is on his left side there with the black top. He's well known for being up in the front early in races. I can't really see some of the, there with the hat on the left-hand side, Dick Beardsley, definitely now up there. He's got white gloves on. They couldn't ask for better weather. 47 degrees we hear, clear. The air is just so crisp. I'd have to say that right now it looks like the conditions are better than they were last year. There was a bothering wind. Well, what they're also doing is for that third to fourth individual miles last year, so they could make it up.
They're running out through the Park Slope section of Brooklyn, a large Hispanic-American community there. That's also the place where the Battle of Brooklyn took place that we talked about before. Simonson of Norway in the blue uniform there, the chunky, husky man, and Salazar obscured at the moment just behind him. You can't see those day-glow pants right now.
Well, this was the point of the race last year where Louis Kinney from Ireland was out by 20, 30 yards and really pushing the pace. That is not happening. I can't pick out Beardsley right now. He seems to be
got that white painter's cap on, unless he took it off. He was up with the leaders. We don't see him there now. Our word is that oh yes, just in the right of your picture. See that little white cap bobbing up and down?
Yes, he's you know, dropped back 10 yards and come back up. I think I see the Soviet athlete in the foreground of the camera. He seems to have a lot of potential, but I'd be surprised if any of the Soviet athletes run exceedingly well. They had a real tough trip getting over here. They only got here 2 nights before the race. Well, Beardsley is out there away from the crowd,
right
now moving up, getting up to Salazar's shoulder.
So there are the two men favored in this race, running almost side by side in the orange pants and the white shirt. Salazar, the world record holder, in the white cap and the white pants. Just on his right shoulder is Dick Beardsley. These men finished 2 seconds apart, remember, in the Boston Marathon. Remember also that Salazar has only run 3 marathons in his life. In the first one here in New York 2 years ago, he said, in my first marathon, I think I can win, and I think I can run. Great tall structure that you see. You can see the Empire State Building, and I believe the Chrysler Building, all the other huddled skyscrapers of lower Manhattan and midtown Manhattan. But the runners are still a long way from there, far from the halfway mark.
1,000 meters and 10,000 meters. So we know that he's getting faster. We know also that he's getting stronger. Beardsley, on the other hand, is strictly a marathon runner. He doesn't compete on the track. We don't get times to compare him by. But we do know that in the laboratory, they are able to pinpoint that Beardsley is in much better shape than he was at Boston. For instance, when they tested him around the time at Boston on the treadmill, his heartbeat would get up to 188 beats per minute at the end of a certain, start pushing it at 10 miles.
It sounds like you're saying that as of now, the way they're running now, we could end up with a quarter-mile dash to the finish line.
Well, I don't know if it'll be a quarter of a mile, because there's a long stretch from about 3/4 of a mile out when they're on Central Park South, and the footing is very good. And I think if it was close, there would be a big sprint, some big moves that would take place there and in the park. But it's shaping up that it could be like another Boston, with Salazar making some surges and Beardsley making some surges.
Gomez of Mexico maybe could be in there, too. He claims that he's run a 4:01 mile.
Well, Gomez is definitely someone to be reckoned with. He's won 4 of his last 5 marathons. The only one he lost was this one last year to Salazar. So Salazar and Beardsley, the longer the pace lags, the more trouble that they could possibly have, the more chance there is of an upset. And that's the thing that is probably weighing in their minds now. Sal, I think so, and that's one of the things we have to think about. You know, it would be possible for them to pick up the pace and knock a few seconds off each mile and come back, get close to the record. But you have to remember that Salazar last year threw in some tremendous miles. The 16th mile that he ran in around 4:37. So how much better than that can you do? He ran some pretty hot ones in there. I think it's going to be more of a 3- or 4-man race, at least until they get into Central Park.
Okay, well, it certainly is still a pack of a good many runners right now, but in front is Alberto Salazar, not letting anybody get in front of him. He is obviously controlling the pace of the race all the way. And that's quite a trick to do, isn't it, Marty? I know it is in horse racing, for example, just going around one time, let's say, or as in the Preakness last year, when the young jockey, cowboy Jack Canal, outmaneuvered, as far as pace was concerned, the great Phil Shoemaker.
That's right, and it takes a lot of combinations to be able to dictate the pace. You know, some people can even dictate the pace from the back of the pack because of their reputation. And there is something in a first-time miler's mind, like Carlos Lopes, who has beaten Salazar, knows he has a chance to win, but in his mind he's saying, well, I feel good, this is slow, but Salazar knows what he's doing. It happened in the Olympics many years ago, where one runner came up to the other, running for his first time, and asked if the pace was fast or slow, and got a certain answer and decided it was too slow for him and went on to win. So in your mind, you're always deferring to the men with experience like Beardsley and Salazar. Now Beardsley has think that this fast he wouldn't have gone that fast, but it was no contest. This year, who knows? Well, in this sport, it's usually harder to set records when it's a very competitive race because you're more concerned with your competitors, and a guy like Salazar is less likely to put himself out in jeopardy on really the cutting edge of what any human being has raced pace.
Let me give you a quick update, even though we don't have them on camera now. Greta Weiss is still up in that leading pack, but she has not broken away from the field. Charlotta Teska, who said she was sick and ill and wasn't going to run well, is right up with them.
The German girl.
There's the West German girl, Fogli, the Italian girl is up there. A woman from Hungary, who we didn't know much about before the race, is right up there named Zabo, and they picked up the pace. They were running quite slowly, about as much as 10 minutes off the pace a few minutes ago. They're now on a 2:29 pace, so they're getting faster and faster each mile.
Okay, an update on how the women are coming along as that men's pack continues to stay quite close together. Alberto Salazar, still the man to catch, still the man to beat.
Well, what Diana said was that they're 10 minutes, if you project the pace they're running, they're 10 minutes off of the world record pace, which puts them at a little over 2:30 pace, which means that this women's race could also come down to a 4- or 5-person race because there are a number of athletes who are capable of 2:30. In the past, we've seen Greta go out in these races and just get away from the field within the first 5 miles, and it's been, you know, nice shots of Greta running all alone and demolishing the field. And again, last year we had the same thing with Allison, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. It's a much more balanced women's field, as Diana said at the beginning of the show.
Well, here we have them on the Pulaski Bridge. They're crossing from Brooklyn into Queens now, and this is the halfway mark of the race. Should we expect anything to happen here, Mark?
I think so. You know, it's very easy to double exactly what the split is here and predict what kind of a time you're going to have. And whether you're one of the leaders or you're in the top 100 or the top 1,000, in your mind you know that I'm not running, or I am running the pace that I wanted to do. And everyone in that lead pack has got to be saying that they're running slower than they had anticipated they would. They all were looking for time 2:10, 2:09, 2:11, and they're not going to do it. So some of them will hopefully say to themselves, I don't care if I beat Salazar, I've got to come out of this. I've planned for so many months. I've got to come out of this with a personal record by beating my time, and so I need to make a move and run my own race. We may see that happen. The other thing that's interesting about this point is that bridge is probably the only major hill on the course, and you really get an idea of how you feel when you go up a tough hill. You can really take stock of your body. We've got some real surprises. McCary on the left-hand side there, Villanova graduate, my old school, who lives and trains in Eugene, as Salazar does, has talked about running a very good race here, and now it seems to be doing something about it.
Okay, you saw some of the people on the curbs as they run through the city of New York, running through so many different ethnic neighborhoods, through neighborhoods that are Italian, Irish, Polish. Could mean something, right?
It does, because the half marathon was passed in 1:04:55. Doubling that, you get about a 2:10 marathon pace, which is very good, and it's really great that so many runners are up there at that pace and are going to run in the 2:10 to 2:12 range today. That's terrific, but it's not terrific for Beardsley, because at this pace, he shouldn't have dropped off the pace yet, and he expected to make some moves, to start making some surges, trying to use some tactics at the 59th Street Bridge, where Jim Lampley is waiting for them, and he obviously isn't going to be able to do that. So his race plan is blown, if only 3 or 4 in the main pack. It's very interesting. George Malley in the gray on Salazar's left shoulder. He looks like he's laboring, but let me warn you, that's just the way that George runs. He's a very heavy-footed runner, but a very strong runner, running his first marathon.
And suddenly here on his shoulder was a man he'd never seen before in his life, the East German who went on to win the race. By the way, we might point out that this variety of shots you see, like the wide shot of the bridge in Manhattan we saw a minute ago, none of these are stock shots or pre-recorded shots.
A lot of racing once we come down toward the 16th, 17th miles here.
Okay, well now they're heading down toward the position where Jim Lampley is. Remember, they're going to make a degree turn as they come off the bridge here. As Jim Lampley indicated, there's a tremendous crowd gathered there. You see them yet, Jim?
No, I do not see them yet, Jim McKay. They're going to be coming down off the bridge any moment now, and the roar that we hear when they come by here is going to be a reflection.
Okay, now, as they come by you, Jim, give us a picture of that scene.
That all the runners must feel at this point, because they know they have arrived in Manhattan, and while they'll be making one brief detour off of this island to go up into the Bronx, they're within shouting distance of Central Park, and the real race will begin from here. Incidentally, Dick Beardsley has dropped back, and we asked his coach, Bill Squire, if he thought that was a problem, but 18-mile mark.
Well, that's an interesting observation then from Bill Squires, the coach of Dick Beardsley. By the way, he has said that he's going to be at a couple of water spots, and since there's no time for conversation, he and Beardsley have worked out a number system as to what strategy they're going to employ. So he'll simply say to Beardsley, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, and he'll employ the next strategy. Well, it would seem that
really the only runner in this group who has beaten Salazar this year. Not in a marathon, but he has beaten him. Lopes seems to be biding his time very well for a first-time marathon. But here, Salazar now is taking some initiative.
You're looking downtown as the runners come uptown. They're running along First. You were looking up First Avenue, and now you're on First Avenue with the running through a section called Yorkville. It used to be almost totally German. Then a lot of Irish came into this section. Now it's a much more varied population, but they're out on the streets from high-rise apartments, from 10-second. Carlos Lopes, the Portuguese, who beat Salazar in a 6-mile or 10,000-meter race, actually, earlier this year, is in there. Into this, after we take a break, Dan Schlesinger is moving up on the leaders, and that is quite a surprise. But right now, I'm going to go away for a minute and then return to the New York City Marathon. President Mexico continues to lead the New York City Marathon. There he is in the orange uniform, but right with him still is last year's winner, the winner of the last 2 years, the world's best record holder in time, Alberto Salazar. Now, you can't see him yet, but we do have to document the fact that Dan Schlesinger, a 27-year-old from Raleigh, North Carolina, who's never done better than 2:17:58, has been moving up swiftly, and it's within 100 yards or so.
Well, it's amazing, Jim. If there's anyone out there who tells me that they know Dan Schlesinger, they're crazy. The guy has been in obscurity for the last couple of years. By coincidence, I